Greetings and welcome everyone to my YouTube channel, All That Is. I'm so glad to have you here joining us on this live and on the replays as well for future viewings. Please love, like, share this video. Please subscribe and hit that notifications bell for all future shows. We have a great lineup today with Noko coming on as my special guest. Please drop a comment and let us know where you're from and let us have your feedback as we progress through this live show. I'm so excited to have Noko. We recently teamed up on Instagram for a live tea time. If you can, please check that out and let us know what you think about that show as well. Noko is here today to talk about her work and the fabulous products that she promotes through her many channels. She's a multi-talented goddess of self-care. She's a healer, a musician, a grid worker, etc. But this is just a few things that I know about, so we'll get to know about her as we progress down the line on this meeting that we're having today. She's got such a beautiful singing voice as well. She's got a sacred shop where she promotes her products. But I'll let her talk about that. Without further ado, let's welcome Noko to the show.
Hmm. Thank you, beautiful sister. That's so sweet of an intro. I love it. I'm like,
Well, I don't really
wow.
know too much about you, so let's discover who Noko is all about.
Well, you did pretty good. I definitely wear a lot of hats and I like to stay busy. So, kind of one of those people that things I can kind of grasp onto things easily, so I can end up doing maybe too much. Have to focus in a little.
I hear you.
But yeah, thank you. I'm excited to be here and to have this connection to, divinely meet up again and share more. And I especially love sharing about my story um, and what I have to offer, right? Because I've been told pretty strongly that it's time to be seen in 2025. So here I am.
I'm hearing that from a lot of people, they're feeling that call to be, galvanized almost into action. And it's like there's an urgency in their hearts to come forward and do what they are meant to be doing, right? So I'm glad you're feeling that call too.
Yeah, it's strong. Yeah, and it's a strong call also to connect and collaborate. So to see that, manifesting right in front of our eyes is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And, to plant these seeds for, further networking and community and support. And yeah, just seeing the
Absolutely. And you do it so well. And I'm so grateful for your guidance and your
Mhm.
sharing your expertise with me because I am so new to this. I'm new to YouTube, I'm new to Instagram. And it's just, getting over all of those technical difficulties and learning how to, get through all of that. So it's been a huge learning curve for me as well. But I'm glad we're on here and we're doing the things that we're meant to be doing, right?
Yeah,
Even if we sort of
absolutely.
muddle through all of the technical difficulties, right?
Yeah, that all gets worked out in the wash.
I know, I know.
Just got to remember to stay patient and,
Yeah,
have that divine faith through it that it's going to work out and there's learning to be done here, right?
absolutely. So let's start at the beginning, if you will. If you want to just talk a little bit about your childhood, how you sort of got onto your spiritual path. Was this from a very young age? Did you, get into it at a later stage? I'd like to hear more about that, please.
Good place to start. I actually, I would say I grew up with an interesting juxtaposition of some family was kind of the Christian Catholic type background with the religion and the spirituality. And then I also had my mom, who was very much into Native American culture, into exploring that part of our lineage and our background, and really into the spirituality of that, the embracing of Mother Earth and the loving of all kinds and all creatures. And She just has the biggest heart you can ever, imagine. And so I really got an interesting upbringing. And then my dad was kind of like the conspiracy theorist, truther, very much a protector, that kind of like taught me like karate and stuff and how to defend myself. So I really got like that kind of spiritual warrior, and the yin and yang of what that was, because my mom was really easygoing and always kind of let me get away with stuff. Like I could party, right? Like my mom would be like that friend, and then my dad was very like, more strict and more, I had to be not as had to be as perfect I felt as I could, in around him. So it was an interesting way to grow up, and I think it helped me, to become balanced in who I am. And my spirituality is an interesting path because I feel like I feel like I may have just gotten a little bit more into the logical side of things, the 3D mind, very oriented to, becoming a pediatrician, going to college, like all the 3D things. I was very into facts, science, everything that I was taught, everything that I was told, going through school. And um, I think at some point, I had to come to terms with the fact that a lot of that wasn't what it actually is. And so that's where I started stepping into the spirituality. And the things that brought that in more were, deaths in my family. When I lost my grandfather, I think I was going to college. I can't remember. I wasn't too young, but I was young enough that I didn't have a lot of experience with that. And it really rocked my world with anxiety, depression, like loss and grief, and going through all that and not understanding it. And when I went to his funeral, which was at a church, we pulled up and I looked up, and on the steeple, it was a hawk sitting up there. And I thought it was fake. I mean, I was like, what? In Native American culture, the hawk is grandfather spirit.
Oh, I didn't
Um,
know that. Okay. Yeah.
yeah. And it's the animal medicine that, flies closest to great spirit, to God. And so seeing that, I'm getting chills as I share the story, seeing that on the church, and I was in the car with, I think my mom was with me actually, and hawks used to be her thing. Like she'd see a hawk when I was little, and she'd be like, "Thank you, Great Spirit," yelling out the window, and oh God, I was so embarrassed. And now here I am doing that sort of same thing. But it's just interesting because it all came together in that moment. I said, "That's not real, is it?" I thought it was like one of those decoy little plastic things. And I said, "That's not real." And right at the moment I said that, the hawk turned its head and looked at me.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and my mom, and we all had this moment, and it really brought me to a place of, okay, there's more than I understand. Like, I grew up learning some of this. I thought it was cool, interesting, but I was always kind of head in the books, deep in the 3D path of what I'm supposed to do here to help people. And, I want to be a pediatrician, actually, and help children with wellness and whatnot. So, what a turn for me, where
Yeah.
I've come to, in the health and wellness area. But yeah, that was the first thing. And then my chronic illness and healing, about a decade later, healing through that and finding out about the healthcare system, about, how the body works, about how there's more to healing than just the physical parts. So
Did you
that's
actually
how
do like a training, like to be a pediatrician?
I didn't. I was on a rigorous high school course
Okay.
to advanced, science, biology, all the things. I also, just to put in there, I also was a very creative. I was a musician. I was playing instruments all through school, and I was actually I ended up being a bassoonist and going to do like orchestra in high school. So I was chorus, I was cheerleader, I did everything. I was that girl that just, I like to do everything. And even like student body government, like everything. So I was always busy. And it kept me away from, I think learning, getting more in depth with some of the other things because I was always caught up in the 3D. But yeah, I actually didn't go to college right out of high school. I ended up having a baby. I ended up I was fell in love with my high school sweetheart, and he was younger than me, and I ended up having a baby at 21, my
Oh,
oldest
wow.
son. Yeah, unexpected, not really planned, but loved more than anything, changed my world for such the better. And obviously, that was also a part in my journey of learning and growing. And um,
Were you
I went to
always a
college
sensitive?
later.
Yeah, were
What's
you
that?
always a sensitive? Were you always an intuitive person?
Ah, that's a great question. I think so. I think so. I don't think I understood or knew what that meant. I don't think I believed in it enough to witness that as much. But, looking back, and remembering like as a young child, like just some of the things that would come through me, like the songs and like being out in nature, like I just feel like I always had that connection to the elementals. Now that I know what all these things are, I can go back and connect dots in my life and see things and realize even my dad seemed to have a pattern of getting haunted houses to live in. And so even to that extent of, being able to feel like, I can feel something going on here. I know something's here, and trying to not tune into that in those situations. So it was always like this fine line of like, not really wanting to go into that space, I guess, almost like a fear or a
Hmm.
blockage around that.
Hmm.
And I think that had a lot to do with the Christian and the Catholic side of my other family because there was a lot of just things I didn't like about that space, a lot of things that turned me off, a lot of hypocritical behavior, a lot of not showing that kindness that they speak so highly of, and judgment. And it didn't make sense to me. That was something I can remember as I was younger. Like I never really thought that one religion could be right because how could there be so many? I was always interested in learning about all of them. Like I read about Buddhism, I read about Hinduism, I read about um, so many different aspects of religion and how they affect culture and art history, all the pieces of that. Um, so I had a huge interest in it. And I always thought, like, how can you just choose one? How can you um, there's such an interesting thread that is woven through many of them as well, which you can see patterns and stuff. But
Hmm.
it's intriguing. It was something that, I explored, but I was like, let me just keep it over here because, you know, like I said, I had some sour taste in my mouth, which I think a lot of people have from certain religious,
I know I certainly had that with Christianity. Yeah, I totally
yeah,
understand. So when did
yeah.
you make that, leap of faith, if you will, into the spiritual aspect that you now practice?
Uh, hmm. Well, I would say it was after, I think fully it was after going through the chronic health issues that I was going through. So about a decade ago, maybe a little bit more, because it was before I had my youngest son,
Okay.
and had a lot of chronic pain, inflammation in the body, no energy, mind, brain fog, emotional swinging, stress. Digestive problems was the biggest issue, and also a lot of reoccurring like infections or just getting sick a lot, immune system not really functioning right. And so, of course, me being the 3D person that I believed in the systems, I wanted to be a doctor, I went to the doctors and tried to get help, spent a lot of money, I mean, tens of thousands of dollars, getting poked and prodded, getting, treatment, whatever they were, different things that they would try or give me. And at some point, I hit a brick wall and I realized like this is literally the definition of insanity, right?
And it's
Like,
not working to your benefits.
no, it
Yes.
was terrible, as I reflected on it, it was terrible. Some of the things that I was put through, some of the things I agreed to do in the poking and prodding process to get nothing. They couldn't even give me a prescription to help my situation. They just said that, yeah, there's not much we can do here. Okay. and not to go into too much detail, but basically they were looking for I had a marker for Crohn's disease in my blood work. So they were looking, and I was having patterns and things with my digestion that looked similar. So they were
Hmm.
looking for that. But in order to diagnose that, they have to catch it while it's inflamed. It's something that flares.
Yeah.
And so it's very rare. And I was doing research, and a lot of people were saying it would take them, 20 years to get a freaking diagnosis. Which even then, right? I don't even care about that at this point. Now knowing that would have just gotten me into the next realm of, what are they going to give me? What are the
Hmm.
pick your poisons, right? So it brought me to a place where I had to start exploring outside of the systems.
Yeah.
I started using the internet. What a great tool. It can be a terrible thing, it can be a gift. So I use that to research, what is this? What's going on? I found out about candida, which is an overgrowth or an imbalance of the yeast in your body. Everybody has yeast in their body. It's not abnormal, but if it's out of whack, it means that your immune system is probably, look, so your body's asking for help. Something's out of whack, out of balance.
Yeah.
Well, the doctors don't believe in that. When I brought that to my doctor, she was like, no, that doesn't exist. No, she said the only way we would diagnose something like that is if you had cancer. And I'm
Wow.
like, you haven't tested me for cancer,
Yeah.
first of all. But if somebody with cancer can have it, can't somebody that's getting ready to have cancer be going into that realm have it? Like, where's the
There's no
logic?
logic to it. Yeah.
And once I started realizing and connecting the dots on that, it led me to a place where, yeah, I started healing my body naturally. I stopped seeing the doctors. Um, I found naturopaths, I found chiropractors, I found, people online, medicine women that, I mean, some of the most divine connections. And I have to keep it real. I even hit a roadblock with doing the naturopath and the eating well and changing lifestyle because I was still missing a piece. Um, and over, I got this message, pray. You got to pray. And it was coming through like music, songs, friends. I had a friend like give me a Bible as a gift or something, and just all these different things that kept coming through. And I thought to myself, what am I going to lose at this point? Why not? Why am I not going to try this? And so I prayed. And that very day was the day that online, I was on a Candida group, like I think Facebook or something. And I ended up connecting and meeting this medicine woman that we've never met in person, but she is amazing. I love her. Shout out to her. She's out west. And we still stay in touch. She has some amazing products and she's just a beautiful soul. And she taught me so much. But that's all I needed. Enough proof
Hmm.
was that, you know, and it was so almost instantaneous for me. It was like magic to me. I was like, wait a minute, this is how
Wow.
this works?
That's amazing, isn't it? When you get instant results like that, it's like, where were you 5 or 10 years ago, right? I suppose you have to go through that process of realization to alchemize the healing in your body, right? It's like, you go through all these different rabbit holes, but then you finally hit upon the right one. And then there's so much empowerment in that, isn't it? It's like, wow, yes, this is what I'm meant to be doing, right?
Mhm. Yeah, and old me, back in the day, still going to the doctor, I would have heard that prayer message and probably would have ignored it, to be completely honest, because I hadn't hit that wall. I hadn't hit that point where I was like, okay, I'm just about ready to do anything, and like, so I think that is a lot of it too. I think part of the human experience, unfortunately, is learning the hard way for many of us.
Absolutely. And then how did you incorporate that into your life going forward from that point?
Oh gosh, it changed everything because honestly, I got pregnant with my youngest, Kingston,
How many
who's
kids do you have, by the way?
I have two boys.
Oh, okay.
Yep, I have two boys. My oldest is Ari. He's 23, I think now. Oh my gosh. And my youngest is Kingston. He's 10. and
Okay.
I love being a boy mama. Definitely the queen of the castle over here.
Yeah.
Um, but because I was trying to get my body healthy, but we also wanted to have a baby, and we were getting a little bit older. We were at a point where, our Ari was, I think he was 10, maybe he was older than 10. So, the gap was starting to, widen.
Hmm.
We actually, because of my health, I believe, my chronic issues, were struggling a little bit with fertility. And I did not want to, well, I was advised and I did not want to do that. But when you're pregnant, you don't really want to be doing the detoxing and the cleansing of the body, because it's time for your body to really just be nourished and taken care of. So kind of had to take a little break. And it was for quite a while because I was also needing to nurse. And that makes a difference with your nursing, because all of that will end up in the milk. So, but I at least got to a point where I started questioning, like, even through that, like, pregnancy part, like, I don't know if I want to take any, like, needles or whatever they were trying to offer me. I don't know about the ones they want to give him. I just was starting to really wanting to know more and dig a little bit before I just said yes to things because of
Hmm.
my previous situation. And also because, my world had started to be turned so much around with understanding, like, this life is so different than what I ever knew it to be, with the power of prayer, with the power of healing, my own body, and the things that nature can provide, like sunlight and grounding and earth, and just all these things that I was discovering, like, on this path of healing. Um, so yeah, so it was a big transition. And then having Kingston, um, he actually was injured by a shot because they gave him one at the hospital and they gave him one at his 1 month. And they usually wait until the 2 month, but I was already questioning. I was already saying, why does he need that? What is in that? And can I get the insert? And they were not liking that. And so they ended up doing that one earlier. They're called the hepatitis B. And they're completely useless now that I know what I know, like, for what they're for. Babies should never be getting this type of thing. It's stupid, really. And come to find out what all of this did for me, his injury, and because I was already awakening to everything and I was, like, already on the fence, it really made me go back and connect the dots. I had been injured. I had gotten that same shot when I was in high school when it first came out. And since I had done that, I had had all these mystery issues, skin rashes, this candida, the overbalance with the infection of the candida reoccurring was after that shot. And I started linking these things up. And sure enough, when I did the research on the shot, they use yeast as an ingredient, as a preservative, whatever they're using it for, in the shot. And this is no this is no coincidence. I ended up with a very high allergy to yeast after having that shot. Then I started researching more. How is this so? This doesn't make sense. Well, in scientific experiments, and I love science, these lab people, in order to give a mouse or a rat an allergy, that's how they do it. They give them a needle, they give them a shot with the item as an adjuvant of what they want them to be allergic to. So you start putting the dots together and you look at all the ingredients on many of the shots. Almost all of the allergies that are common these days, guess where they're coming from?
Yeah,
They're using the dairy, the bovine serum with the dairy. They're using the peanut oil with the peanut allergy. Like, it's mind-blowing. Um, but it's good to know. It's good to educate. It's know better, do better.
absolutely.
So after that happened to my son as a baby, all done. Mama stepped up and was like, you're
Yeah.
not giving him any more of those. Well, I was still on the fence because they tried to scare me. But I said, I'm delaying. And then when I did enough research, I was like, I'm not doing any. We're good. So, yeah. So it's been a journey. And then I got into the activism with that. That's a
Yeah,
lot of,
no, good on you for doing that.
getting into my music, going in and talking about this, spreading awareness in the community, doing health freedom events. That's something that's been my passion and was part of what fueled me with my music because I wanted an avenue to get these messages out to the masses.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then if you fast forward to 2020,
Oh
I'm
boy.
sure that made you hit the ceiling, hey?
Oh boy. But I knew that was coming. The thing is,
Yeah.
because of the work that I did and what I know,
Hmm.
it was no surprise, you know? And I had already claimed my sovereignty in this realm for health and wellness. So nothing was gonna shake me in that way. Like our family didn't do the whole covering of our breathing holes. We didn't stay away from people. Even if somebody, I had like certain people I would see and be like, oh, we're not feeling that well, or I'm sick. And I was like, okay, well, we're not gonna be able to ever see you like again. So either we see each other or we don't. It was just, I just didn't look at it the same way. I'm not afraid. If it's my time, if Great Spirit says it's my time for my experience here to end, I honor that,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
So
that's so great. And fear was such a relevant energy at that time, right? It
big,
encapsulated the entire earth, right? And they did it in such a way that they were everywhere. They were in your face everywhere. And it was such a tangible energy, right? And I know for a fact that I faced it here like full on. And
oh,
I would get into fights. Well, I shouldn't say fights, but it was just that energy that it was so like confrontational, right? And I
mm,
used to walk away from many of these situations, right? Like I would defend myself, but I would, just walk away from it because it was just getting too poisonous for my energy to engage. So I just let it go. But
mm.
there's definitely a healing from all of that, right? For us to realize just how much that, that energy like controlled us, right?
It was a huge awakening for many. I think it was
Mm-hmm.
important. That's why I honored it so much because I understood how God was utilizing this as a tool.
Yeah,
The dark ones, the controller, whatever you want to call these fools,
yeah,
whatever they do, it's kind of like I call it like a Looney Tunes cartoon because, the bad guy always ends up dropping the piano on himself, right? And I truly do believe that regardless of what is done in that way, that there is a divine plan. And it's better than any of us can understand. So I had a lot more room and space for what was going on at that time. I feel for the people. If that was me 10 years ago going through that, oh, I would have been a mess. I know in certain locations, I think you're in Canada, right?
yeah,
So that's a whole different, different locations were harder to handle and live in than others in these situations, right? With the rules and regulations.
absolutely.
I mean, I heard crazy things about Australia, like people ratting on their neighbors and like turning people in and crazy things.
Yeah, yeah,
And it is something that people need to wake up and see and look at, and realize like, wait a minute. So I think it was an integral thing. I think it was important. Um, and I still learned a lot too, through that time because I was training. That's the thing about me doing all that activism before and already being kind of a truther, a truth warrior, someone putting it in my music, willing to put myself out there and say these things. I have a whole song called Unbreaking Science. It's talking about, I have a music video about it at the CDC. I filmed it. It's talking about these atrocities, these literal crimes against humanities. So, of course, I would get some trolls. I would get some people that weren't liking that. And even in general, if I find somebody like online that I was going back and forth with, I learned pretty quickly you can only plant a seed and kind of move back. Like there's no point, in like you said, like it's just not worth your time and energy. And you're actually feeding into that divide, where if you can really show up in love, in space and grace, and not like, oh, you're stupid for covering your breathing hole, the kind of things that you see. And I understand why people feel that way. Don't get me wrong, but um, I think there's a way to properly, communicate and deal with these people that think differently than us. And the day that we can't do that anymore, the day that we don't appear humane enough, right? We don't hold those levels of compassion and grace and love to be able to like do that and connect and communicate about things that we don't agree on. That's when there's going to be the problems, right? Because we no longer see each other the same way. We no longer hold that space, and then we look like the enemy and or like something that is not the same, and that we would only have so many other options, right, to deal with those
Yeah,
types of
but
people.
interestingly, it's like so many people woke up during that time, right? Like they
Oh, for
woke up
sure.
to all of the corruption. And to me, it revealed a template and a pattern of how these government bodies or corporations function, right? Like if you
Hmm.
use that template to what's happening today, you can straight away see, for lack of a better term, you can see the bullshit coming at you, and it's
Absolutely.
so tangible. You can almost like lay it one on top of the other, and you can see how these things are going to manifest, right? And
Mhm.
so I think people are wiser now because, they tried it with the bird flu and everyone was like laughing in the face of these people, right? It's like, yeah, whatever, we'll just keep going. So,
I
it didn't gain any traction like it did the previous time, that just
Yeah,
proves to you that so many people are now awake and aware of what's happening, right? So, yeah, I think it just woke everybody up to the control systems and, how not to like believe in them anymore.
exactly, exactly. And I saw that coming from a mile away. I had put a song out on my album called The Great Awakening. And it was all about this because I felt, in my oracleness, I could already see, what was going to be coming down the pipeline. And yeah, sure enough. And I'm thankful. I'm very thankful for that. I think it's definitely a different climate. I think it's a good time right now. That's why people are being told to be seen, to come out and get out again. Because some of us that did that fight 10 years ago when everybody was picking on us and calling us crazy, we got burnt out. We didn't fill up our cups. We were too busy trying to save the world while everybody was, laughing at us or thinking we're nuts.
Yeah.
And now, though, now is the time. Now that we've been healing and rejuvenating and finding our divine connections, we need to, come back into the forefront and be speaking the truth and be making these events and be doing, all of the creation energy around that.
Yeah.
Um, and I love that you brought up the whole like template thing
Yeah.
because this is a pattern that I was seeing. I got that scientist mind. So when I would be out doing this activism work and doing the research that I would do, I found this. They have playbooks. They have this,
Oh,
repetitive thing that they'll
absolutely. Yeah.
use.
And the truth of it is they went public with the whole thing. Like they did a dry run before they
Mhm.
actually brought it into the public as a live, disease, if you will, right? Like
Mhm.
there's that agenda, what do they call it? Agenda 2021, I think, and now there's Agenda 2030, right? So they had they had a dress rehearsal before all of this went, worldwide. So
Yeah.
that's the proof of it, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I always say the world is their stage.
yeah,
So are you watching? Are you an
absolutely.
audience member? Or are you creating your own stage in your own world, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Don't you feel like after you've seen all of this, don't you feel like saying, I told you so, I told you so?
oh,
Like your 3D energy is like, wow, all those things that I've been saying and trying to warn people, it's all come to fruition. But I, for one, I've held back, and for me, I've lost so many family and friends along the way, It's just from, being authentic in my messaging and speaking the truth as I saw it. And a lot of
mhm.
people till today think I was crazy, in saying the things and doing the things that I did to reveal the truth. But, I never said I told you so, but I felt like doing it many times.
Yeah, I've heard that. And you can hear it and you can feel it even in just the energy when you go on
Yeah,
social media. Certain people are not holding and harnessing that in as well as you are. But yeah, it's definitely it's something with, what I think it comes down to. And what I've noticed in my journey of being a truther and someone that wants to help others, like if you go and tell your family member, for instance, they have a new baby, right? And you say, listen, I've done this research. I'm giving you this resources, right? You hand them all the information. You say, this happened to my child. Like, this is what happened. I can tell you the whole experience. I don't want the same thing to happen to you or worse because unfortunately, I have friends that don't have their children anymore because of this needle tech. So
Mhm.
here's the information, please research, please. And then 3 years later, you see the picture of their child on social media and, their eyes are doing the strabismus, cross, which I've already researched and seen is a symptom of injury from these shots. And it starts to break your heart and you feel there's a wounding there. There's a lack of trust. It's like this is a person, this is a family member, a friend that you love, and you know that they love you. And yet they're not willing to hear and trust you. They're not willing to have faith enough to even look into it because if they did, they would find the same things.
Yeah.
And so it's there's something there that hurts when you are that
Yeah.
person and there is a little ego in there too, right? That is like, man, what the heck? Like, I told you so. That
Yeah.
part
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
ego part.
Yeah.
But the hurt is, and I think the hurt fuels that ego part. But the hurt is like, man, why doesn't this person believe me? This is
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I feel the same way. It's
Yeah.
like, and I've said this to a couple of close friends. I'm like, you'd rather trust the government than trust a close friend who's telling you what I've done as far as my research, and you probably did the same, right? And so it's like, yeah. And this phrase that was bandied around at that time, and I think it still is, it's like trust the science, trust the science. To
Hmm.
me, that's like a programming,
Oh, for sure.
right? It's like turning people into these zombies, if you will, right? To like make sure that they are staying the course and following
Mhm.
what the propaganda is dishing out to you, right?
We can fix that phrase very easily. Trust the science with integrity.
Yes.
So if the science is being funded by those those that are behind the products that are being researched, okay, things like that, if there's corruption behind the science, if you look at it and there's manipulation of numbers and how they're deciding to make these control groups and different things that they do, if you know science and experiments and how this all works, it's very basic to be able to know something's wrong here. This is not science,
Yeah.
right?
And it's
So,
always the usual suspects, right, that show up in the background that are benefiting from all of this, right? Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's it's really hard because I always said that like I didn't understand how it could be happening on such a large scale, but when you start to look into it, it's actually quite easy for them
Hmm.
to do that. And numbers don't lie, but people do.
Yeah.
So
Well, let's
unfortunately.
shift gears, shall we, and get into something more high vibrational?
Yeah,
Let's
feel
talk about
free.
your crystals. I love your crystals. Let's talk about your
Oh,
crystals.
oh my goddess. I'm so excited about what's happening right now in my life and where I've gone because, as I said, the activism really burnt me out a bit. I didn't understand about self-love and self-care back then. I thought I had the weight of the world on my shoulders and, coming to a place where I just needed to like focus on my own healing um, and learning more about spirituality and connecting to my magic and my gifts. All these things started to come into my world as I set those intentions further. And crystals were a big one that showed up for me. I just was very drawn. I already had some background. As I said, my mom was very much into Native American culture. So we would go to powwows. You see crystals and stones there. And in general, there is like a love for, Earth and what she provides. So um, I knew about some, like turquoise and certain things, and even in my other side of my family, my grandmother worked a lot with gems because she worked in a jewelry store. And so I was very inspired by adornments, things that you put on. I went to college for fashion design is where I ended up, doing my studies. And so I have this creative side of me and this side that really enjoys like expressing yourself through what you wear.
Hmm.
And so when I found crystals and realized, wow, I can adorn myself with something that I also can work with, that I also can use intentions with, that I can amplify or magnify certain things with. So I got super excited about that. And you will always see me, wearing some sort of whatever I'm guided to for the day. It's not like, oh,
Yeah,
this matches my outfit. No, it's what speaks to me.
it's much higher than that. Yeah.
Yes, yes, for sure. And actually, a funny part of this that I don't bring up a lot, or let's not say funny, let's say magical. When I got pregnant with Kingston, which, as I mentioned, was a little bit of a hard journey. We had
Hmm.
finally had success after over a year. My neighbor was moving. We were moving, and my neighbor was doing like saw that we were doing a yard sale, so had us come over and doing a little connection. This Asian couple that we barely ever spoke to for years that we were there. And by the end, when I was going to leave, she had slipped this jade bracelet,
Oh,
um,
wow.
this one right here, onto my hand. It was hard. You couldn't even get it on. I don't know how she got it on me. It's so small. And I was like, "What are you doing? It's going to be stuck on me, you know?" And she said, "Oh, no, no, it's for you, you know?" And I was like, "Okay, thank you." Um, and it was like this opening of the crystal technology for my body because this has not come off since then. So this has been on for over 10 years.
Oh, wow.
They
Amazing.
wanted to cut it off when I went in for my C-section with Kingston. They wanted to take it off of me, and I said, "No, you can't." Um, but I felt like it was a protection piece for him while I was pregnant. As I started to connect all these dots and learn about what that is and what an honor it is to have someone of that culture to give you something like that. Like it was a really special moment for me. And so that kind of like started me up. And then just from there, I really got into, like I was just buying every now and then with my spare cash. And back in the day when I was working corporate, I was pretty abundant. I would go and buy crystals every now and then. And at one point, I got scammed on
Wow.
Instagram. Somebody did not send me crystals, but they took my money. And I was so sad about this. I couldn't believe it that it was even possible that this could happen. I mean, it was just the naivety, but it made me say, oh, well, maybe I could. I don't know anybody that sells crystal. It kind of like gave me this moment of, hey, that person really needed that money. I'm letting that go. And also, I would like to be a safe space for someone to buy crystals. I don't want that to happen to someone else, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Also, knowing the energy that goes into crystals, as I started connecting with them more, it was like clear that it was part of my mission to kind of like take care of them, like have them in my care, in my energy, in my field, working with them until they find their proper homes. So yeah, so my shop is basically inspired by these little angels, these little crystal healing angels that I was, before I started my shop, giving as gifts. And somebody saw them and was like, "Oh, where do you get those? Like, I want, that's a great idea for a gift. Where do you get those?" And I went back to that point of when I got scammed, and I said to myself, why can't I provide these? This person that I know is looking for them. They think it's a great idea. I love it. And so it just all started to culminate from that point. Uh, yeah, and I wanted to leave corporate world anyways. So it was
Yeah,
like,
that's a good way to do it, right? Yeah.
and I was doing my music, which it's kind of expensive to make music. I don't make money off my music at this time.
Hmm.
And I never really did. And so I really wanted to create it, but it was costing me money, to get into the studio, to buy a track to from a producer to be able to make a song and, to have all my Reverb Nation, my music channels up and like go and like do performances. I would have to spend money to even do that. I'd have to pay to get on a stage. So it was, I wanted to find something that I could like do with that. Like maybe if I went out to do an event and perform, I could also have a little table with crystals at the event, right?
Hmm.
Um, so I was thinking about it in that manner as well, is how can I do something that would kind of support both facets and help others. And it just, yeah, it came into this sacred shop idea and it became bigger as I really realized like it's much more about self-love and um, also about my energy work and the things that the other gifts that I'm bringing that I've already been working with the crystals with, but bringing it straight to the people. So it's been fun, like how it's kind of evolving and developing into some new pieces for me.
Yeah, that's so exciting. And so you incorporated that into your energy healing sessions?
Yeah, so I just recently added some sessions to my website. My website is nokostribe.com. And I don't have all of my inventory up yet because it's really timely to do this with little individual pieces. But I'm just kind of focusing on some things there and still keeping my Instagram going, which was where I kind of started selling really just person to person and very intimate kind of um, experience. But yeah, I added three different sessions, or what I'm calling services. And one is like an energy reading, which I'm doing, using different divination tools from what I'm guided. There may be a little bit of sound healing or light language or things mixed in with the reading if I'm guided. Um, and then just sending that recording to the person. I've done a couple of them so far. They've been so powerful.
Yeah.
So excited that I started doing it. And then the other two are like frequency sessions. I work a lot with frequency devices, being a musician, being a sound healer. It's the same thing. It's,
Yeah.
just a different language. So uh, I've got like intentional healing, blessing, prayer sessions, even to the point of setting up like a crystal grid, similar to when I go on mission, with the ladies that I work for. I work for a couple different oracles, and we do a lot of events and boots on the ground stuff. So a week before I go out, like when I went to Kauai, I'll just create this huge crystal grid with other kind of elements from nature, maybe feathers or flowers, whatever I'm guided. Again, I just listen to Great Spirit and do what comes through. And then I will sometimes photos if I need to bring in maps of the place or if I'm guided to bring in certain buildings. Like in DC, there were a lot of buildings that needed to be worked on, museums, government buildings. So I had photos. And then every day for like a week before I would leave, I would go and just work the frequencies. I'd have my device sending certain frequencies in, and I'd be working with my scalar plasma projector physically and also praying and doing anything else that comes through. Again, there may be light language or um, sound healing or things, depending on the day, it changes. But it's very profound. And I said, oh, well, I could do this, for people. I could set one up for a person, their animal, a project, a certain intention, or even their land, a property. And as long as there's proper consent, I do ask for that. And then I actually started I haven't added it to my site yet, but a lovely friend of mine, actually, I just did tea time with. She came to me about doing some curation of crystals for her grid work on her property, on her home, and it was one of the most fun projects I've ever done with someone. We did a couple Zooms. Um, I ended up sending her a huge box of amazing crystals for her land, and getting those crystals ready and packed. Like I always like do certain things with energy and intentions for all of the crystals that go out of my shop. But these ones, it was like very specific because we had a map drawn out of where they were all going. I provided her with a beautiful map with what each crystal, and it was like the intentions were coming through of like what this crystal was doing in the land. And it was just so cool of an experience. I can't wait to do more of that.
That's awesome. That sounds so intriguing.
Yeah,
Um,
thank
yeah, I'll definitely add your contact information to the show notes. So please, everybody, support Noko with her products and her services. We'd really appreciate that. How beautiful to have that, that blessing in your life, right?
you.
So yeah, it's truly amazing. Now, I want to pick your brain about light language. This has always intrigued me. How did you stumble into that realm?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think again, it's kind of the hand in hand with the sound, the frequency, and using my voice as an instrument and as a tool for Great Spirit, as a channel. Um, I've even like in a lot of the grid work missions I've done remotely, with Indy, for instance, things will come through like it'll be like the baobab tree or like things that I would never expect, the heads over there on Easter Island, like some really interesting things, energies that I've tapped into that have come through this channel. And it's a very pure connection because I was able to get to a place after doing all that work with my music of finally accepting my voice as the instrument that it is, knowing that it's not meant to be perfect or like, pitch perfect or exactly this or exactly that. It was really letting go of my expectations and what I thought and my own criticism with my voice and allowing it to just be what it is and to really honor what comes out, knowing that it's what needs to be released and let out in that moment. And so I've had to really let go of judgment, like around, oh, what does that mean? Or what is that noise? Or, well, that's weird, what do I look like when I'm doing that? All these things that would be criticism or judgment, I've had to really embrace, and honor what it is as that gift. And the more that I'm able to have gratitude for that and see it for that and let go of the criticism, the more I was able to tune in and tap into some of these other things that would come through that weren't a song, weren't a message as far as like me just speaking English. Um, and it brought me back a lot to my childhood. I think I was doing light language when I was younger, not knowing that's what it was, not
Right.
understanding. Maybe I got picked on, maybe I got judged. I would probably guarantee it. Um, so I think something happened on my spiritual journey where it was brought into my field, this light language concept. And it was like very intriguing. It like activated me immediately. And I think one of the first times I did it, I want to say I was in like a sacred salt crystal tub. It's one of my favorite self-care routines for myself is to get into a nice, hot tub with the salt and the crystals and maybe some essential oil,
Yeah.
uh, and really just have time to connect in. And I think that's when my first light language came out. And so it was very much just me, right, experiencing it and not doing it right in front of a
Mhm.
crowd yet. But the more that I worked with that, the more that I utilized it and honored when it needed to come out, because even then in the tub, it wasn't like I was like, I'm going to do light language. It was like, it was just time and it was just going to come out and I honored it. Um, I want to say I was doing like maybe a meditation, like a guided, something, maybe like a Reiki. There's a gal that does really great energy kind of activations that I love to listen to in there. So it could have been something like that, maybe came through and helped me as well. But that was my beginnings. And then I will say I did a course with Indy. Which one was that? I think it was called the Starseed Expansion one. Um, yeah, it was like advanced Starseed Expansion course, and she had two ladies on. And one of them was kind of a light language specialist type of, and so, shout out to her because I feel like after being in that course and after working in there and kind of receiving some of her codes and wisdom, um, I feel like that also was a big kind of upgrade for me, and even just working with Indy and doing the grid work missions and like being kind of open to what would come through in those times, it really allowed, me to experiment and allowed me to um, just kind of be open, to whatever needed to come through divinely. So it's cool. I really like doing it. I think
Yeah.
it's speaking from a frequency standpoint. That's
Right.
why it's called light language, right?
Yeah. So from a layperson's point of view, like how is that affecting the field, if you will? Like, are you seeing visions? What kind of like just give us an example of what that message really means when you bring it in, like just a small, just so people understand and
Yeah,
translate that into their own experience when they hear
yeah.
light language. Okay, that's what it means, you know?
I think it will be different for everyone. I think that the language experience, whether you're actually doing it yourself or you're receiving and hearing and listening, being activated by it, I think each person will individually have their own, way about that. I think there's probably people out there that it won't be activating for them. It won't be something, especially, people that are maybe a little bit more blocked, in their third eye and their capabilities to receive activations. But I think that for me, a lot of times, like I'll be out in nature or something like that, and I'll feel this energy, this feeling, and I'll just allow that to come out of my voice. And then I wouldn't say I see or envision something in that moment, but I would say I can feel the vibration of what that is in some way. It might not be detailed, but like sometimes, for as an example, I had one where I was communicating with a dragonfly. And so it was quite clear that what was coming through was, a frequency from the dragonfly realm. And like you'll get that a lot, like either with elementals. For me, I work with elementals a lot. So like when I am around water, at the beach, at the ocean, I get a lot of like nymphs or like this mer people energy. Um, so it really varies for me, and I'm sure it varies for everybody, that does it. Is there a message that I can translate to English? I would say no. I think that's the point of light language. If it was supposed to be translatable into English or Spanish or whatever language that we think we can comprehend and understand, we wouldn't need light language. Light language is actually there for the activation. It's actually there for the magic and the ability for someone to start to tap into the energetic realm and the frequencies without needing to have that physical translation, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. It's like a gnosis, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And I think a lot of times for someone to receive a light language activation, my recommendation would be to just open up and receive it versus trying to, what does that mean? And what was that noise? And those 3D human mind hamster wheel type stuff, let it just fall away just like you would in meditation and allow it almost if you've ever been in like an oracle healing session where someone's singing or things like that, it's very much more of a performance style where you just receive, and it may be an instantaneous thing where like you're like, whoa, okay, I'm activated. It may be, a few days later where you're like integrating, you're like, oh, some things have changed in my field. Like, what is this? So that's my take on it.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. Thank you for explaining that. And what a
Mhm.
what a blessing to be conscious of that happening to you, right? To
Mm,
relate that to your experience, whatever and however that manifests in your life, right? So thank you.
totally.
That's awesome.
Oh, you're so
I've
welcome.
been privy to some of your light language transmissions and they've just been so beautiful
Oh,
and
thank
so
you.
wonderful. Yeah, no, it's great.
I will say there's a strong connection to the inner child too. And so, being able to tap into that space and maybe even going to that place when you're receiving it, if you have a hard time with letting go of what is this and, questioning, being able to find your inner, little inner child and, sit there and receive it that way, even if that means laughing or smiling or dancing or whatever that makes you do. I think it's really important that we honor. what comes through for each of us and our individuality. And not everybody's light language is, if you listen to people, like it's not the same. I mean, unless somebody is really just copying something that they heard, or and not really
Hmm.
tuning into their own,
Yeah,
it's very different and it's very original, and it takes all different shapes and forms. So,
yeah. Well, I think we've given our listeners many, many different avenues to pursue for their, for their ascension process and their daily practice, if you will, right? There's so many different ways in which we can get onto this higher frequency, right? And you've got a plethora of products and services that could get you right on track, right, to practice. So it's truly incredible.
oh yeah. Yeah. And
When
I
you
always
sat,
kind of preface if I'm doing that in a reading, like, hey, I'm going to give you a little light language coming through. Because, people, I'm not just going to be like, "Duh," and just have it come right out. I
yeah,
usually
yeah,
let people know. So some
yeah,
people may not know what that is.
yeah, no, absolutely. When we last chatted, you mentioned wanting to write a book, a children's book.
Hmm. Hmm.
Is that something that's in the making? Like, is that something that you always wanted to do?
Um, It's not something I would necessarily say always wanted to do. I feel like I've always wanted to be a creator, like, whether that's writing books or creating a movie or, any of these types of, I'm definitely a storyteller. I mean, that's part of, my hip hop, being in music. I love hip hop because it was the original, not what it is today. But the true hip hop was all about storytelling. And so, I just feel a strong connection to that. It's most likely very much in my lineage. And so, yeah, I think that I remember, I think I was in college and I wrote, it was for one of my fashion classes. I wrote a little, I don't know, I forget what they call it. It's like a character. It's like what you would create before you make a story or a movie or something like that, like a character development or something. And I wrote this big long thing and handed it in. And my teacher ended up submitting it for like an award, like a writing award at the at the college.
Oh,
And
wow.
I did not expect this at all. And I won the award. And I realized in that situation, in that moment, like, wow, I could literally take this, create a novel, create a movie, create the dang costumes for the movie because I've done fashion design. And then I could also make a soundtrack from the movie because I love music and it could be, so I had all these ideas going with this project. So this is still something I have on the back burner. Um, and it's a really cool story. But I will say that fast forward to now, having children, being a mom, and having my shop and seeing the excitement that crystals bring children. Okay, children, they're tuned right into these things. They can come over and tell you what each one does. They know, like I had one little girl come over, she's like, "Oh, I would take that one and give it to Barbie and put it in her thing so her and Ken can." I'm like, "Oh my God, it's a love crystal. Like, what are you, so they know it's so cute. And I find something really beautiful and innocent and pure in this connection. And so I said to myself, how could I bring children more into this crystal space? How can I make this something that could be a way for me to express myself and get more messages out to the newer generations? Because that's always been a passion of mine, is really helping the children to, to learn, know the truth, to, be sovereign, to be healthy. And so I had these wheels spinning and it was like, oh, wow. And Kingston loves to make comics. He's constantly drawing comics. He's very much into these books with the, what are they, not anime, but um, so that's his thing. So we, at one point, were like, I was like, I'm going to write a children's book. And he said he wanted to help me. So we co-wrote this book. Um, and it's already done. The book is done. I had actually submitted it to a publishing company a while back, but I don't have the illustrations. So that's the thing that's been holding me back. I originally had somebody that I thought was going to do the illustrations, but then I don't know that it was completely in alignment because it just didn't seem to to work out. I love her and I would totally have her do that, but I don't know if maybe, I don't know, maybe it was just a timeline thing and maybe I realized I was supposed to do this. This happens a lot. It's a pattern for me where I'm looking for someone else to do something for me, but I just need to do it. Um, so yeah, so I kind of started trying to illustrate. I kind of started painting, doing some little things, but it's a lot of work to do that for how many pages I have written. And I kind of put a pin in it for a bit just because of that. But I am very interested in finishing it and getting it out there. It's all about, it's kind of about like a crystal, like superhero crystal team and a little boy that yeah, that is meditating and finds them and it's really magical and they kind of go on an adventure. And I see this as being something that I could, do a series and have many, many more. Um, so yeah, so we'll see because it's like, oh,
How
so many
exciting. That's
avenues.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It sounds so fun. I'd love to read it and when it comes out. So yeah, that
Absolutely.
sounds like so much fun.
Kingston did great helping me with it and being a co-author, and it was fun to do that together to collaborate. Um,
It
and
sounds like he's very creative as well.
he is super creative. He's got
Wow.
a great imagination. His intuition is unlike anyone's that I've ever met. So he teaches me a lot. We teach each other a lot. And I'm grateful. I'm so grateful for that. And I want to promote him to do the things that he dreams about and that he believes in. So if his passion is making comics or he likes to make little videos, nature nerd videos where he talks about animals and outside and I just want to, continue to know that I support him in that way and he sees me doing this stuff, so it's like perfect because he can learn, a lot of the same skills and things that I'm already working on with my businesses. It's a perfect little alignment.
That's awesome. Is
Yeah.
there
Oh,
anything?
I
Yeah.
have to mention the story, the lesson and the messages that we're getting out. Kingston is an avid nature lover, just like I am. And so we wanted to talk about, uh, like pollution and like people cutting down forests and stuff like that, and how, thinking more about that and what alternatives we could be doing. And so that was really kind of part of the mission that we put in there was some beautiful lessons for children to really, honor Mother Earth and take care of her. So, mm.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you wish to communicate? Um, I'm feeling called to ask you if you'd like to do like a prayer or a light language. I don't know. Are you feeling called to do that?
Yeah, we can see what might be good to come through. Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to put you on the spot, but if
Oh,
you are feeling called to it, that would be wonderful.
I love on the spot. You're good. Um, and Kingston and I did for at least a good year, maybe longer, we were doing group meditations and group prayers on my YouTube channel together. So it's right up my alley. And one of the ladies that I work for also has me leading a group prayer monthly call, which has
Nice,
been phenomenal, what has come through there as well. So yeah, prayer and light language is what I'm all about.
nice, nice. I've been trying to, keep up to doing this myself. I've been publishing like 11 meditations for the last few days
Mhm.
in the hope to, just balance out the frequencies until the inauguration is done. I was just
Mm.
feeling all of this, very frantic energy all over the place. So I was like, I need to stabilize the field. And so I kind of
Ah,
took it upon myself to help, whoever tunes in to balance that energy out and just hoping that that meditation helps. So yeah, so that's been up on my YouTube for the last few days and I hope to continue with it.
oh, I
But
love
yeah, any
that.
little bit helps, any little bit is truly helpful at this time, especially when so many are struggling, right? Um,
Yes. Yes, thank you. Thank you for doing that and being dedicated to that because that, doing a daily thing like that is a lot of, effort and time and um if you're being guided there's a purpose, right? There's a reason that you're receiving that, that there needs to be a little extra support in that area. And we all have the different pieces to the puzzle. So
Absolutely.
I'm just thankful for everybody that's listening to their guidance and connected divinely and doing the things, maybe having to sacrifice a little bit on the time or,
Yeah.
personal, to be able to help
And
with
it's
the
so great when we can all come together and, blend into this multi-fabric garment that we're all sort of connected with, right? This fabric of the
Totally.
universe, right?
I love that. Totally. Yeah. That is what it is. All right, I'm gonna put some frequencies on. I've got my little device here. This is some people call it tachyon device or a PEMF device. So I'm gonna I was guided to put a little something on here. Let's see. And then I'm going to just kind of tap in and see what comes through for us.
Okay.
All right. Turn that off. Okay. Just gonna start off with a little prayer and then allow any light language to come through to just activate us in that. We've got some beautiful healing miracle tones coming through the frequency device for us all to just bask in. And then I've also got some really powerful abundance oil that is just seeping into our space here, allowing it to really come into our fields. You may even smell it if you're tapped into that side of your senses. It's very strong. It's very, very empowering. And please, if I say any words or anything during the prayer that does not resonate or is not the word you use, feel free to fill in those blanks with whatever feels comfortable for you. We do not judge around that prayer aspect. And also feel free to just leave what doesn't resonate. Okay. So just tapping into the heart space for a moment, really allowing a little bit of silence in this space. And we're just going to take a few nice, calming, deep breaths together. Deep breath in. And you can feel free to sigh it out if that feels good. And again, deep breath in, really filling up that belly. And let it out. And last one here together. Just breathing in, bringing it all the way up to the heart, nourishing that space. And then letting it out. And I'm just going to play a little chime here to start our prayer. Great Spirit, Mother, Father, God, Source Creator, We are so thankful to be here today with you, connecting with our community, connecting with our hearts, connecting our fields in this way. We thank you for the technology to be able to do this together. We thank you for the time and space and this divine connection between Raquel and I so that we're able to be here bringing these messages to those that need it. And we thank you. We thank you for our home, our blessings, our abundance. We thank you for our wellness, these amazing sacred vessels that you've blessed us with. We thank you for our safety and protection, for our comforts. And we even thank you for our discomforts, Great Spirit, as we know that those help to shape us, that those help us to be in the highest alignment to our mission, to our purpose, and to our service to you. And so today, Great Spirit, we just ask for your assistance in removing any blockages that we may have around connecting to you, around receiving your love, around being our highest version of ourselves. And we ask that you help us to reverberate this healing frequency of love, of abundance, of joy, of healing all around our planet, allowing everyone, humans and all of creation, all creatures, to bask in your glorious light, to receive your divine messages, to feel the healing frequencies, to receive the intentions of peace and unity, to be uplifted and supported on their missions, on their awakening. And we just ask that you allow us to stay connected in these ways with our community, with our healing, with you. We just ask for the patience and the compassion. We ask for the ability to move through anything that is put in our way with grace and ease. And we pray today for a special support in the realm of abundance for all those that are feeling lack, that are not able to see the light, all those that have hit rock bottom. Allow them to find their way. Leave them that breadcrumb trail to this divine connection that is you, Great Spirit, your power, your source energy. And we pray especially today for all the truth tellers, all the warriors, the spiritual warriors, those that are doing this work, the starseeds and light workers. We know that they're all one and the same, the rainbow warriors. Just praying for them all, their voices to be amplified, their gifts to be activated, praying for their protection and safety, praying for their messages of sovereignty to reach the masses in all ways. And we ask for further empowerment in our ability to be seen in showing up and shining our light. And we just ask for further healing around those that have fallen away, those that are not in alignment to our highest paths, We just ask for healing, for forgiveness, understanding, patience around those relationships, around those circumstances. In Great Spirit, we just ask that this message of the sacredness of life is broadcasted to all of humanity so that we may find further balance with Mother Earth, so that we may find further balance with each other, this unification of humanity, realizing and honoring the value of each and every human, each and every life, each and every piece and part of creation. Just really filling up everyone's heart with that gratitude, Great Spirit, for Mother Earth and Father Sky, and for this human experience. And just thanking our ancestors, our guides, our angels, our teams for being a part of this prayer, for helping us to find our ways, for holding us down, for supporting us, for keeping us lifted up. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Great Spirit, one love. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm going to do a little light language for us. And just take a minute to let that prayer just reverberate around us in the space. And just open yourself to receive this activation of divine light language. Just calling in this intention around the abundance, the support, the love, the abundance for us all to be serving our missions, for us all to be living in alignment with God, with Mother Earth, with Father Sky, and with our highest selves, with our highest timelines. Just calling that in here. Tinata shitiki aya noko o. Hititi pa aya shititi ka ai no shoto o siniki a. Hu shi. Ayalala naku o to shitika aya. O no hina pa aya ho shutotuku o. Hilalala niti kata shiya to haina a. Aru nanaka. Ashisha da tutu kataki naki titia hai alona kia shota tia honopo. Hototo shiniki aya tai tutu shinikia. Lo. Shiti ki nakakai koto koko nikikia hono koko. Shu tia. Iya no toto yanakahiya. Lo tatatia shono mo yo toto. Ayato shiniki aya hayato naya. Ulala kiniki shitia hayato to shinikia. La katina koto shoto to koko. Shito to hono. Thank you. Okay.
Wow, that was so beautiful. Thank you, Noko. Thank you. That really resonated. I could feel the vibration in my heart. Thank you.
Oh, good.
So
Thank
beautiful.
you. Yeah, it feels like I'm glad you asked because it feels like something that needs to be out there um for those of us that, like you said, are feeling that call right now in 2025. It feels very connected to that. energy and that intention. So very empowering and very abundant.
Thank you. You have such a beautiful voice, and that
Thank
comes
you.
through. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You just never know what you're going to get. It's so funny because
Yeah.
when we were in Kauai, my husband came for like his first official grid work mission with me, and um, we were at we were at a space where they were doing like a ceremony. We were all in circle, sitting down, and we got to a point where I knew it was something was coming through. I knew it was dragon energy, and I was so nervous for him to hear it because it's just not something I do a lot with him, and I know the dragon energy how it can be, as I've channeled that before, and so I was already kind of like, like, oh, okay, can I do this? And I was like, yes, this is, you just go for it. It doesn't matter if he doesn't like it. Like this needs to be done, and so it was a really beautiful kind of breakthrough for me as well, just on a personal level of it really doesn't matter who's listening.
Yeah.
It needs to come out. And it's funny because in these moments with Indy, it's she always knows like it'll come through and we'll both just like look at each other and she's like, cue Noko. I was like, okay.
That's awesome. I love your connections. Yeah.
Thank you. I do too. I'm so blessed with all the connections I have and yeah. It's part of what's gotten me, to this point of, having the gifts and the activations and the teachings, right? The wisdom, it all goes together.
And what
Um,
did your husband think after that? Very
well, he
interesting.
knows my light language because to be honest, like I will a lot of times in the AM when I do my routine outside, my, just connecting with the earth and I have this it's kind of a way that I kind of call in my team and it's very high pitch, it's very loud and it's very different frequencies. So I'm sure the whole neighborhood is like, what is going on? What is going, who is that even a person? I don't know. Is that an animal, a creature? I don't know. Um, but so when I asked him about it, he was like, yeah, dragon's not my favorite. So, and I knew, it's like I knew, and it wasn't like he was like, don't do that. I hope you don't ever do that in front of me again. It was nothing like that. It was very playful, and it was just, not my fave, but do you. He knows, we're all here with different,
Yeah.
missions and pieces, and he
That's
honors,
great. That's great that you have that support.
oh man, I really am so thankful. I have so much gratitude. I don't know how some people do this without another half. Like he does the cleaning. He loves to do dishes. I was like, okay, you do that, and I do what I do, and yeah, it's always been a kind of a really nice yin yang type of energy between the two of us, and it's just cool. He's now becoming more conscious and in his own journey and mission, doing his own healing work, and I'm so proud of him and. Yeah, I mean, even earlier today we had a discussion. We were talking about, me doing my business, and I was so excited because my first two readings that I had, they left me really good reviews on my website, and I just got really good feedback, and it was so empowering. It felt so good. And my husband, like after that, he was like, "I'm so happy to see you excited about those things." And he said, "How long have I been telling you like how the importance of your voice and how not even just with your music, but like doing things like this, like readings and meditations and prayers and your voice is people need to hear it." And so it was like, oh, you just saying that is like, yes, so synchronistic.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And I encourage everybody to go and check out Noko again, tune in to her lovely energy and what she has to offer. It's so beautiful.
Mm,
Are you
thank
feeling
you.
complete, my dear? Is there
I
anything
feel
you have to talk
great.
about?
Yeah.
Is there anything that I've forgotten to ask you?
No, this has been so wonderful. I love the questions that you brought through. I love sharing, some things that I haven't talked about in a very long time. And it's been really nice. It's been very divine. Hmm.
It's been wonderful talking to you too. I was so excited when we did our tea time, and I was like, I need to speak to Noko again. So
Yeah.
thank you for for spending this time with me. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure
Absolutely.
we have a lot more to come, and our paths will definitely cross. I know we've got something, I think, in the works for Saturday night, so we'll see how that manifests.
Okay, well, I'm always here. I'm down for collaborating and connecting. And yeah, I also can't wait to hear about how, I know you've got your giveaway winner. I've got mine, so we'll have to reconnect and talk about how all that went too. It's just been
Yeah, yeah,
so
that's
fun
been
to
so great.
work with you. Yeah.
All
Thank
right, Noko, thank you so much. I really appreciate you and
you.
keep going, keep sharing and keep that voice going and let it be heard. Everybody needs to hear it. So thank
Oh,
you, thank you, thank you.
thank you, sister. I love you. I appreciate you.
Love you too.
Okay, one love.
Bye bye.
Bye.